Hello again, everyone from Leadership Plus and Education Scotland. It was really a joy to be with you on our March 18th webinar. And I just wanted to follow up and capture some highlights of our time together, share some additional insights and resources that you may find helpful in your work as a school leader and particularly with your team. I know in my own experience, having been a school head for many years, and also serving as director of a large institute that worked with schools and state departments of education, ministries of education around the world, that leadership is not a solo act. It's not just about me, it's not just about us. It's about how we engage and inspire our teams so that they too can help us operationalize our highest mission. And so a large part of our work is really being hosts, is really practicing that virtue of hospitality to everyone we onboard and collaborate with in order to execute the mission we have of ensuring the highest levels of teaching and learning in our schools, of ensuring that we create and sustain the context and conditions that really nurture student learning and growth, and that we cultivate the kinds of communities where young people, the students and learners we serve, the teachers and staff, the parents and community members can really thrive and flourish professionally and personally, because we are stewards of a culture, we're stewards of a community, and our first responsibility is to the adults we hire and place before the young people they teach every day. We need to nurture their intellectual lives, their professional lives, and their flourishing so that they can, in fact, serve students really, really well. And this is why practical wisdom has become such a central leadership virtue for me. And there are many, many strengths that good school leaders need. But practical wisdom is that virtue that helps you know what to do when you don't know what to do. And it's wisdom. So that means the end of practical wisdom is not just to come up with the right answer, but it's to take action in the right way, at the right time, for the right reasons, in ways that bring out the best in ourselves, in our team, and in the school communities we serve. So the work we do every day is about making decisions and taking action. And people are paying attention to the decisions and actions we make. And so often that is what they judge our leadership on. And that's what builds their trust in us and in those deputies on our team. And so it's because what we face every day is a fire hose of challenges, crises, conflicts, change management, sensitive communications. We need a wisdom that can help us deliberate well and act wisely. And it's so tempting in schools when we are facing mounting and often competing student needs, parent needs, teacher needs, school community needs, district needs, that we can feel not only a pressure, but sort of a conflict of how do we negotiate these competing priorities, take the right action swiftly and effectively in order to serve our community best. On my website, I just want to navigate that for you, bring you to some of the tools that you could find very helpful. If you go to publications, under publications, here you'll find 2 impact reports of studies done on the school leadership teams who participated in the Practical Wisdom for Agile Leadership Executive Education Program, which runs from November to May. meets once a month online. It is synchronous, not asynchronous, and school teams meet from their school, and they meet and collaborate with schools across the country and around the world. And the opportunity here is to learn the practical wisdom framework, to try and apply it to specific challenges, crises, conflicts, and strategic planning initiatives that schools have. And so both of these reports provide some insight into what we found. And it's really interesting to see that across schools, first of all, they identify the importance and the value of having time to work together as a team to acquire these shared understandings, shared practices, shared protocols. They also really value being part of a community of practice. What's a community of practice? This is when a team of professionals come together and agree to shared ways of being in order to develop common practices, skills, and knowledge. And these leadership teams form a shared community of practice of school leaders. And it's really grounded, this idea of community practice is grounded in the idea of situated learning, that we learn in context, and it's best that we apply these tools and practices to the particular challenges we face. So what did we find? Most recently, we found that the participants in last year's executive education program demonstrated growth in human flourishing. We used the human flourishing measure out of Harvard's Human Flourishing Program. It has 5 domains of flourishing: happiness and life satisfaction, mental and physical health, meaning and purpose, character and virtue, close social relationships, and financial material security. And there is meaningful growth across all of these domains, with statistically significant growth in participants' sense of meaning and purpose, their connection to their North Star, why they're leading, why they're in education in the first place. And that's really important when we look at the rates of turnover and burnout in school leadership right now. We also found that participants grew in their frequency of use of the practical wisdom framework, those 4 R's, and some of its attendant protocols. And we saw a growth increase from weekly to 2 to 5 times a week to daily use, just grew significantly over the course of the 7 months of the program in both cohorts. We found in our first cohort, we tested them for situated wise reasoning, and we saw statistically significant growth in that wise reasoning, that ability to attend to context, to take different perspectives, and to look at a situation from multiple points of view. We also found major themes of inspired commitment to taking action, both individually and as teams. We found sub-themes of growth in patience, of growth in the capacity to practice reflective listening. We found people frequently using the practical wisdom framework coaching conversation protocol. Additional themes, participants cited changes in their leadership practice. This included pausing to practice the 4 R's of recognizing first reactions, reflecting, recalibrating, and responding wisely. We found participants saying, we increasingly pause to reflect on our aim. What are we aiming at and why? And as a team, we're deliberating better. We're using these questions. We found shifts in dispositions, teams saying, we are really committed to empowering the agency of others. We find that we've improved conflict resolution strategies. We find overall reduced stress and anxiety as a team. So taken collectively, we see the value of learning the practical wisdom framework in a team and across a community of practice in really cultivating a sense of internal efficacy and commitment to one's formative work. So if you'd like a refresher, I highly recommend reading the article in the Journal of Education out of Boston University. It's available through Sage Journals, and it's right here on my website, the Practical Wisdom Framework, a compass for school leaders, because here you get the deep theoretical underpinnings, but you also get the three A's, those dispositions at the heart of practically wise leadership, and the four R's, as well as some of those protocols in brief. Additionally, we had created the Courageous Dialogue Toolkit, Practical Wisdom for School Leaders, which really leverages the Practical Wisdom framework to promote courageous dialogue around really thorny issues, whether it's a sensitive issue around race or politics or dealing with polarization and divide. How do we, in ways that are sensitive, really attuned to our community and their needs, and in ways that allow us to have the confidence of our convictions, and engage courageously across a number of different topics. If you scroll down a little bit lower, you'll find Stress Tests of Character, which is a narrative-based resource guide for both school leadership teams and teachers, helping teachers to use stories in the classroom, even stories of scientists and mathematicians, to foster resilience and engage student agency and ownership of their academic learning and growth while cultivating the moral imagination. And again, all of this is grounded and framed in the need for practical wisdom as we face and as our students face the stress tests of character in their classroom, in their daily work, and in their lives. A little further down, you'll find both in Spanish and in English, Teaching Character Education Through Literature, Awakening the Moral Imagination in Secondary and Post-Secondary Classrooms. That book has been widely popular around the world, looking at how we can teach novel and stories in ways that fire the moral imagination of students and help them use literature as a way to promote moral inquiry and to understand what practical wisdom looks like in very diverse characters under very different circumstances. And speaking of diverse characters and different circumstances, my colleagues from Japan and my colleagues from Boston University, Bernice Lerner, Kevin Ryan, and I collaborated in a project over a 3-year period on 9 virtues. And we looked at them again through story and the wisdom that's revealed in those stories from both an Eastern tradition and a Western tradition. So happiness and virtue beyond East and West toward a new global responsibility is a really powerful book for families, for students. It can be integrated across the curriculum. It's also a very powerful book for faculty professional development. Short stories and essays from different perspectives that allow us to expand our perspective and our vision and gain some practical wisdom into what these virtues look like in different contexts and in the face of different struggles. The most important way to learn and teach this framework is to model it. I wouldn't recommend that you make the Practical Wisdom Framework a faculty development agenda item. I would just recommend that you start living it in your coaching meetings, in your faculty staff meetings, and you will need some tools, some reminders, whether you put it as a PDF on your phone, you print it out and keep it inside your calendar or diary every day, or you use it, you pull it out to prepare for meetings. You can get a license to access the framework in brief as I presented to you online in our webinar with the 4 R's and some of those scaffolded questions that can really help you in the heat of the moment, not skip a step. Those are available. You can have a license to print as many copies as you need for your leadership team or your school. on the website as well. Thanks so much. I hope you find these resources helpful, and follow up if you have any questions about the kind of professional development offerings that could be useful to you and your team.